You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to use the gradient map. Gradient map? Yes, the gradient map. We are going to start with a grayscale image, and then we will be making a gradient map to add the colors to it. Of course, we will be using free Procreate brushes only, and I will guide you through every single step. So you don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate. And as always, once you have finished the tutorial, once you have reached the end, you can share your work on Instagram, for example, tag me in the image, not just in the description, and perhaps we'll see your work in the next video. If you are enjoying my You Can Draw This videos, then you can support this channel by just leaving a thumbs up or a comment, subscribing to the channel, and if you want to do even more, then you can join my Patreon page. There, you'll be part of the biggest Procreate community, you'll get loads of brushes and a lot more tutorials. But now let's get started with this tutorial. First of all, the canvas, it's 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels, and I have set the color profile to sRGB. So I have created a color palette. You can download it for free through the link in the description. It's right here. First of all, let's drop in a background color. We will do that on the first layer. We'll pick this second color, or actually second gray, and we'll just drop it onto our canvas. Then we'll make a new layer by clicking the plus, and we are going to pick the third color in the color palette, and we are going to use the selection tool. That's the S-shaped ribbon here at the top, and we are going to set it to color fill. And we are going to turn on freehand. And then we'll start here at the top. Let's make our canvas a little bit smaller first, so we can see the entire canvas. We'll start here at the top, somewhere around here, and we'll wobble our way down to the center. And then we'll go back up again, a little bit wobbly all the way to the side. Then we'll loop around and close our shape over there. And now we have this shape. It's automatically filled because of color fill. Super handy. Let's just click the S-shaped ribbon again to turn off our selection. Now we are going to make a new layer. We'll go to the layer menu, click the plus for a new layer, and for the color we are going to pick this one over here. That's the 6th gray. And we are going to use the selection tool again. This time we'll start about here. And we'll wobble our way down again. You can make some bigger wobbles. Imagine that these are rocks. Then loop around, close that shape, and then do the same thing on this side. Start about here, just underneath the eraser tool in this case. And wobble down. Imagine this is a rock wall. Then we'll go back up and close the shape. And then you can click the S-shaped ribbon again. Now we are going to create a layer underneath this rock wall. We'll click layer 2 again, and then we'll click the plus for a new layer in between. Then we'll pick the color that is right next to the one that we just used, the 5th color over here. And then again, we'll use the selection tool. Let's start a bit lower this time. Let's start about here. And we'll go a bit to the right and down, and then we'll wobble our way to the bottom of the ravine. And then we'll loop around to close the shape. We'll do the same thing on the right side. Let's go here and then wobble down like that, and then loop around, close the shape, and then click the S-shaped ribbon again. All right, let's make a new layer underneath this one. So again, we'll click layer 2 first, then click the plus for a new layer, and we'll switch the color. This time we will pick the 4th color, and we'll grab the selection tool again. We are going to start a little bit lower than that mountain, like those rocks in the back. We'll start about here, wobble to the right to about here, and then we'll go down, make it nice and wobbly, and then loop around to close the shape. We'll do the same on this side. We'll go to the left to about here, Make a wobbly line going down like that. Loop around and close the shape. And then click the S shape ribbon again. Now we are going to add a sun. Let's do that on a layer on top of layer 1. Let's click the plus here. And we are going to grab that first color over here. And for the brush, we are going to use the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. Let's go for a size like 10%. Opacity should be at 100%. And let's draw a circle. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape tool. And then hold one finger on your screen to make it snap to a perfect circle. And then you can drag in a color to fill your shape. I feel like we can make it a little bit smaller, so let's go to the arrow here at the top. Make sure that you have it set to uniform. And let's drag one of these handles to make it a little bit smaller and place it around here. And then just click the arrow again. Now let's make our bridge. Let's go to layer 5 over here. And let's grab that same color that we were using. That's the 4th color. And let's use the monoline brush. Let's make it nice and small. I'll go for 1% so it's dragged all the way to the bottom. And let's just zoom in a little bit. And let's make a line between these areas. If you hold your pen in place, it'll snap to a quick shape. And then you can go to edit shape here at the top to adjust your line a little bit until you have something like this. And then just click the little brush again. Now we'll make 2 poles because this bridge should be attached to something like that. And then we'll make 2 more lines attaching these parts. Again, hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape. You can go and use edit shape to adjust it a bit if you want. Then click the brush again and attach these sides as well. Like that. And we can actually make the bottom part of our bridge a little bit thicker. We can make another arch. Use edit shape. Just make it a little bit thicker. Then click the brush again, and then we'll make these vertical strokes between the bottom part and the top part. All the way to the right, and then on that other side, make some more lines. In between those other ones, until you have something that looks like this. Now we have our tiny little bridge. Let's add some more to the scene. We'll go to layer 4, and we are going to use the script brush. It's also under calligraphy. Let's grab the color that we used on this layer. That's the 5th one. And let's add a plant here at the top, for instance. The opacity of the brush is at 100%, by the way, and let's use a size of 10%. And with this brush, if you press harder, your stroke will be thicker. And if you press lightly, it'll be thinner. At least that's the case when you're using a pen with pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil. So go and add something like this. And let's also add a little tree. We'll start here. Start by pressing hard, and then as you go to the end of your stroke, press lightly. And just add these branches, make them a little bit wobbly. Make sure that the base of the tree is a bit thicker. And as you move towards the ends of the branches, try to make your strokes nice and thin. You can add another one over here. Again, start thick. Make your line a bit wobbly. Then make another line attached to it. Again, start thick. And then press lightly as you continue with your stroke. Until you have something that looks a bit similar to this. Let's also give some leaves to these trees. Let's use the syrup brush under inking. Let's set the size to 20%. The opacity is at 100%. And let's just make some of these dabs around the branches. Around here, and some leaves over here. These are stylized leaves. So just making some dabs. Like that. Now let's continue and move to the foreground. Let's go to layer 3 and do the same thing. So first we'll go to the script brush. Let's pick the color that we need. That's the 6th color. And let's make the brush a little bit bigger. Let's say 30%. Let's make a little plant over here. Just some strokes like this. And then let's place a little tree over here. Again, start thick and use less pressure as you go towards the ends of the branch. Then we'll place one over here as well. Thick line at the start. And thinner lines towards the end. Make them nice and wobbly. And let's add a little plant over here. You can make a variety of plants and trees. Use your imagination. Let's grab the syrup brush again under inking. And let's add some leaves to these trees. Let's make the brush a bit bigger, 30%. And again, let's just make some dabs to mimic these leaves. Make them nice and stylized. Here as well. They don't have to be attached to the branches. Give them some space. Now let's move even more to the foreground. We're going to make a new layer on top by clicking the plus. And this time we are going to use this color over here. That's the 7th color. You can barely see it. And for the brush, we are going to use the, where is it? Well, the script brush. I already had it selected. The script brush. We are going to make some leaves in our foreground. Start about here. And make some shapes like this. A bit like bananas. On this side as well. Banana shapes. Let's fill these shapes by dragging in the color. And then let's also add some leaves over here. We'll make some pointy-like leaves. And on this side as well. They also look a bit like bananas. Let's fill these shapes. You can also click color filling with recolor and then drag that little crosshair around and then click all these shapes. Now just a few more leaves. I'll make the brush a bit smaller. Let's go for 15%. And let's add some small leaves here. I'm dragging the color again. Or use that recolor option. And also let's add a few of these bigger banana-like leaves here. Now we are going to switch to the eraser, and I want to use the script brush as an eraser as well. So what we can do is just click and hold the eraser to make it switch to the script brush. And we are going to make some gaps in these leaves, in our banana-like leaves, Just go along the edge, creating these gaps here as well. Go along the entire edge of these leaves. Then this one. And these banana-like leaves as well. I'm trying to press harder at the beginning of the stroke and then lightly near the end of the stroke. Then let's go to these small leaves and add some gaps here as well. Just a few. Now we have created some nice depth in our drawing. To emphasize that even more, I want to blur the foreground. So let's go to the magic wand, then click Gaussian Blur and then set it to Layer. And we're going to slide to the right to add a little blur. And let's go for around 5%. We're going to do the same thing for layer 3 underneath, but we'll blur it a little bit less. We'll go to the magic wand again, click Gaussian Blur, set it to Layer, and we'll go for 2.2%. And then finally, we'll do the same thing for layer 2, which is all the way in the back. We'll use the magic wand again, Gaussian Blur, set it to Layer, and let's set that to 2%. And then click the magic wand again. Now I want to add a little extra to our scene by adding some birds. Let's go and create a new layer. Let's click the plus for a new layer. Let's use the same color as we used for our bridge. That's the 5th color. And let's use the script brush again. Let's make it a little bit smaller, perhaps 3%. And let's create some very basic bird shapes. Just the way you did when you were a kid. Very stylized. You can make some very small ones that are in the distance. You can make some a bit bigger towards the foreground. I think this is enough. Now finally, I just want to add a little bit of mist to the bottom. Let's go and grab the soft brush under airbrushing. Let's go to this layer first. Let's pick the first color over here, the lightest. I have the opacity of the brush at 40%. And let's set the size at 15%. And let's just glaze over the bottom area here, creating a slight mist. Let's do the same thing on layer 5. Just go over the bottom area a little bit. And let's do it just slightly on layer 4. Now finally, let's go to layer 1 and let's darken the top of the sky a little bit. We'll grab the 3rd color. Let's make the brush even bigger, 25%. And let's glaze over the top area to just slightly darken that. If you want to soften that gradient a bit, you can just go to the magic wand, use Gaussian Blur, set it to Layer, and drag your pen to the right to, let's say, 25% to get a soft transition. And now it's time to add the gradient map. To use gradient map, we need everything to be on one layer. Now you could just go to your layer menu and merge all the layers together, but then you wouldn't be able to change anything later on. What I like to do is select all the layers by sliding to the right, then selecting group, and then I'll duplicate the group. And then I'll merge the group. I'll click the group and then select flatten, and now I have everything on one layer. But in case you can't make that many layers, then I would suggest duplicating your canvas. So go to the gallery, duplicate it, and then you'll always have a backup file in case you want to change anything later on. So you can either have your backup in your file like this with this duplicate group, or you can have a duplicate canvas. Now let's go and add that gradient map. Let's go to the magic wand, click gradient map, and then select layer. And you can see that these colors from the Venice gradient map are applied to our grayscale image. You can play around, grab some other gradient maps, but what we are going to do is create our own gradient map. We are going to click the plus, and then you see that you get this grayscale like slider here at the bottom, and that's where we can create our own gradient map. Let's click this black box first. You can see in our color palette that we have black as our first color. Then we'll create a second color. We'll click here to create another box, then click it. Oh, and do make sure that you have it set to palette here. You can also go to the color wheel and this one and like the harmony tool. But let's go to the color palette, then pick that second color over here. And then we'll continue all the way to the right. Let's click here for the next color. We'll pick this one. Then we'll click about here. And we'll pick that orange. Then let's click here. Pick this one. And we'll click the final one and choose this one. Now you can use these boxes and slide them around to tweak your gradient map. So this dark, this black, will be applied to the darkest colors, our darkest values. Then as you move towards white, it'll apply these colors. Let's slide this one to around here. Let's make this a bit more reddish. So we'll place it around here. I think this is nice. And here we can play with the sky. Let's go for something like this. And then you can just click done and you have a colored image. Let's just click the magic wand again. And that's it. With just a few clicks, you have colored your entire grayscale illustration. And this is a great way to experiment with colors in your illustration. Just make sure that you have duplicates of your grayscale image, so you can try out lots of different color schemes. I hope you have enjoyed following this tutorial. Do let me know if you did. Don't forget that you can support this channel by hitting that thumbs up, leaving a comment, and subscribing, of course. I will see you next time for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial.